Perfect design, armor up from within. Exactly the parable of what I'm facing, the ignorance in this day. I see it lined up in front of me in the moment of life. The expression explains that I am pitted against these dark, total eclipse of the human rage, human entity levels, warring with each other, and how they duel inside the mind to prevent actual societal progress. Ozone replenishment is possible. And I'm speaking to people who get defeated by the vision and the sight of a house, and they cannot comprehend why the adult animation is not something that forces people to become sexual themselves. They think like the crunch of their mind is part of a, well, you guys, when I see this house, it's like a little nightmare. But the thing is, when I compare it to, look, I need to talk to you seriously, and I'm concerned by these headlines. I think you guys have the wrong cocaine Hollywood in the 90s, standing on the neck of children, preventing the solution to the environmental crisis. You are proponents of the heat wave, the terrorism that prevents residency and humanity to continue for the triumph of your squiggly spooch. Oh, walk off, move on. Dodgers had a big victory. LA has had a breakthrough recently in a transmission. Boys, you are at the end of the fucking dock. I am working with Earth and the sunlight, and I'm a bit more progressive than you're able to comprehend because I signify something that is categorically beyond you. So you're only able to perform like a retarded, rude person to me, Trey Parker. The Wear Map has revealed this thing, a supreme annoyance, a strike. So the cocaine Hollywood is like, guy, the whole thing about producing you is like this murder suicide pact. I'm like, no, that's not what it's about. We're not thick as thieves. You guys are retarded child abusers who halt society, you anti-free election parasite. You stole my money. And that's what you're standing on, as your soul and your karma. How dare you visualize my pornography and be like, oh, get ready for people to masturbate. Like I haven't, you piece of shit. You unbearable wealth against man. You are a colossal impasse in the mind, preventing the rise of mankind. The ascension of the triangle, the enlightenment of the true wizards is not with these who choke children. I'm talking about ozone replenishment, and the only way to reach that veil is through a pornographic loophole, a wormhole, a temporary vortex that I will open up with animation. It will be achieved in the first few months here in this building itself. And the content will be immaculate and perfect. You guys, I want to give you a run through of the show, and I'm just saying that the way you guys conduct my energy is telltale of the parasite design. You are like the darling puzzle piece because, the education of abusing a failing economic system. So now, our economy is tanking, and you guys are like, I'm the establishment of this polluting the world and burning children. It's pure evil. You are a pure evil axiom, and with the drunkenness and the pleasure, the Dodgers just won. So I know that you've successfully converted this shit. You'd be like, listen, you guys, the reason that where I'm at the end of my rope is because this building signifies the only way that I can manufacture ozone. Beyond the threshold of me not working with Trey, if you guys look, there isn't like, okay, when I look into the future, I see the zombification. You guys are like Stillwater, creepy as the $1 trillion coin comes out. The abstract art will overwhelm your perceivable input. Like the images are getting larger, and reality has not always been this way. So you terraformed, you've sold out your own childhood. You guys are like a terrorist to the internal artist. And the conversion of energy marks in the flat dimension a telltale signs. Oh, well, I'm just concerned because you guys have the wrong idea about everything. Oh, I just remembered something. I have something wonderful to share. You know how I was talking to you guys about my previous form of my life was more like an object because About had a type of universal responsibility that humans were not a universal responsibility character. A little consumer grade, take advantage beaver, and that's supposed to be charming? No, it's pure evil because they've justified it. They've justified their theft and their entrapment, and prioritize uh, to not appreciate the identity myself is a physics model. And so the universe has a relationship with the baby bubble up all about myself and how I'm working alone as the lone wolf to protect a group of people who admittedly are not behaving in order to survive. They're like, we're okay with extinction. And that's how they behave. Okay, they behave without belief that the boy has the light. They don't anticipate the magic of another person. They are colossal anti-father with a type of conclusion in the adult chapters, like critical month passes when they're 53. Critical moment, and they miss the mark. And they're like, whoa, that's just, and this entire crunching of their icon use of how energy is converted there and what's fair, as if they had achieved so much to earn silence towards the man who's actually saved the world multiple times. uh I don't know, it's like I feel like Trey's saying, so what's the next building that Hatch is going to throw at us? The thing is that honestly, the next building I wouldn't be able to throw at you because it would have it pertains to auto mechanics, which is not something I'm going to do. So that's why I'm sort of at the end of my rope here, because if I'm not manufacturing ozone in order to defeat the climate crisis for 2022 to prevent wildfires there, that's what this project is about. If I don't have an office block of people doing the type of factory level business where they're commanding industry, well, then I need the corral of like a societal revolution. And so I'm not going to be having this sort of pornography that encourages people to masturbate or to feel like this is our background music. However, at length, it's more like a story, and so at length it does become just part of the healthy erotic glow. But the way I'm going to record it, uh, it'll take me uh, weeks to master the moment when I'm performing the character that provides the greatest, like, flirting with the and making laughter happen, and then she has this really adorable giggle while I'm fucking her. This sort of thing, like, oh, I have to find that. It's gonna take me like a week, and then really it's just like a segment in there between Little Blue and the ozone hole. I think I'm using things so effectively and wielding them as a gentleman that people go away and allow themselves to believe it was a mistake. Or it's just a sort of this, because it's not scripted, it means that it's uncertain. But that means that you've never said anything genuine in the moment in your life, because you don't stand on the moment. You believe that it's a longer arcing plot. And that is the expression of the exoskeletal examples, the false society, the electoral college, and a failing USD, and people who are against the children who are protesting. So it's just a subtle turn of things like, I mean, wow, key players involved. I mean, the wording, the picture of Trump looks good. Why is Trump like being, it's almost like he looks good in this article, and it's standing right on this kind of turn. I think Trey just recently had a type of uh, breakthrough in exchange for, like, well, obviously porn is ridiculous, so I can just move on. And he has the wrong sense of masculine liberation, as if I'm containing him. The Were map had chose him. The Earth true needs help. The Earth is dying. The children are dying. Your unconscionable response is the toll of man. You don't comprehend responsibility. You don't comprehend English. Shrum. But for me to go into auto mechanics is a dead end. And I say to you this, Trey, well, I have been working on the Leverett Circle. I say that was more like a meditation and not a waste of time, because I'm actually working on stabilizing my incarnation. The 55 Putney, every moment is lucid and sort of actually a heightened physics of residency, so you need to suffer that toll and standard for the sake of the surviving children. So even through the impasse of silence, there is a society that carries your will, or you're like, oh, I wanted that to happen, or these are the restraints of my bones. Millie, working on the storefront. You guys, listen. So what I'm trying to say is, like, literally, I'm making like a small confession here when I say, listen, when I was talking about Echo Lake, I was really communing with you guys about my incarnation, about Bubble Up All about the origin story, and it speaks well of all of you. It is a good light. It is a healing light. It's a creative thing. But if we're to get to work, like, what's to get to work on? Well, the ozone replenishment. Exactly. And how do we get there? This icon character. And when I bring this character to life, he begins to whisper in his angel ways, in his angel wings, a type of intuition that leads me there. And he brings me in. Oh, I want to tell you guys the story about Little Blue. Here's the pilot episode. Thank you for joining with me. Little Blue, he wakes up in a fantastical bedroom of his own imagining, But he wakes up and he's, well, he's very emotional, and he looks at himself in the mirror, and he's, I'm sorry, like, I really love the story about Little Blue. And when he wakes up and he has a morning wood, and he just kind of looks at himself in the mirror, this is like a 2-second clip, right? And he kind of just grabs his dick, and then he kind of cries a little bit because he's like sensitive and it feels good, and he's like, woohoo, like he gives out a little sound or something, and it's just a 5-second clip, but it's sort of the opening scene for Little Blue. He's this anxious little character, so we can really empathize him. But he puts on his clothing and he, crashes into the living room where all his other family members are and they exist. And so we get to see his family, and he actually they're all kind of chattering, and this is something I'll be developing in the haunted house recording studio. Uh, at length, there's a warmth in the house. There's a suggestion about the invention there, that they're a thinking family. They're like late night think tank kind of thing. I might have like a moment where we even see like oh, a conversation from last night, or it replays on the computer screen. The computer's like, oh, remember when we were casting magic last night? And it just sort of brings it around to, because of what it's actually pretty powerful. At any rate, I mean, not to take the story back too far, but just like, because we see Little Blue wake up, so it's like it's relevant to sledge in just like, oh, what he was doing before he went to bed, you know. So they're like casting magic. Here's the thing: when some of the boys start talking about uh, basically like how they're kind of they feel urgent, they feel wanty, and they're talking about it, and that part's really cute, right? But this is Little Blue, the ozone angel, Earth True, absolutely, and bringing this character to life. That's part of the next level thing that the next generation understands about wizarding. I think the older generation is more hesitant to like bring characters to life because then they think that the reason to like continue or whatever is some sort of subjugated thing about existing. But Little Blue is a powerful entity for Earth True because the kids are asking for solutions. Here it is. All right, so Little Blue, he's talking to his alicorn brother, his older brother, and he explains to him, he's like, well, I use my unicorn's horn to cast a portal magic while I'm running, and when it aligns, you have to use the clockwork talisman to calculate the vortex alignment, and then it whoops open, but you have to project it from your own midbrain. Like you have to be the first degree from the parable of your magic casting for the wormhole to come back to where you were. You have to make that plan to begin with. So like it's kind of like a loop knot. You know what I'm saying? And basically your body is that parable. That's kind of what's funny and chewy and playful about animals and all our bodies and our souls, is that we're like yeah, just little clampy robots thrown into a vortex of whatever, and just get blended and splatted out on the other side. And it's you know, it's the powerful reality, boys. Anyway, so what happens is like Little Blue is laying is I think he's like uh in the boys' living room area, like a gaming room, but it's almost like you're headed towards the vampire king's room, so you're starting to see some vampire stuff on the walls. And anyway, Little Blue is like chilling out on this big leather couch. He's laying on his back, and like as his brothers are talking to him about like casting magic like this. So again, I'll be recording and having these interactions with the characters where I'll have a moment and a breakthrough and be like, this is how you cast the magic. And well, I'm sorry, that's like it's sort of like glorious. It's like an orgasm. It's like, yeah, man, get the cut, right? Capture that on the thing, and then we'll have that animated. Oh, it's like the perfect banquet. It's a feast for the eyes, right? So all this character building is really giving confidence to this character. We believe in him as a hero, as a struggling artist. I mean, his struggle is like morning wood, though. So it's just really cute. It's a really playful thing here. So what happens is Little Blue is on the couch, laying on his back, and he's sort of leaning over, and he's feeling a little chubby. He's feeling like, oh, because like his brothers are talking to him about like serious magic. But they're not like locking eyes right now. They're kind of just like whoa, and kind of pacing and walking in sort of like there's some sort of a distance. It's not. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's just a split moment because what happens is because little blue picks up something and he starts thinking about his unicorn horn and he goes like unicorn horn up or whatever, and when there's actually like a spectral, like there's a aura of a spirit comes out and then it starts like glowing and gathering light, and I'm thinking like at some point, so he little blue does cast the teleport magic right there from the couch because it's just exactly what, and it's sort of like these guys have little powers that it's a sort of a genuine process that they have to discover, right? But the point is, I think there's a certain moment when the boy, like the Alicorn Stallion and the Vampire King are talking to each other, like right, because there's like a thread you need to pull it back and then it unties evenly once you get on the other side. Yeah, and they're talking about like messenger particles with your own timeline, stabilizing your Y chromosome, and in battling yourself like this, armor up from within, wizard armor up, and that's what I talk about a lot with you guys. And it's gonna be electric. People are gonna love this thing, All right, thanks, you guys. Like I'm saying, like don't feel persecuted by me, but what I'm talking about is a super adult way of introspecting on yourself and being like, oh, that's misplaced energy, it is, and being like totally embarrassing about it too, because Trey isn't an embarrassed person. He's like a pillar of the society. He's like Homer Simpson, and that brings him to a place where he's like, I'm responsible morally also for these kids. And so I'm saying this pornography is totally like a life story and it's healthy and it's not like we're not going to have weird close-ups of the sex happening and sounds and stuff like so let me just walk you through the pilot once more, and again I'm here to explain the thing. It's very adult, it's global. I want people's full attention, and then at the very end of this pilot uh, movie, it's basically saying, uh, you know, online, join my side of the haunted house for ozone replenishment is gathering. The community and online support metrics, like boop-a-doo. So it just starts piecing together. It's basically like a co-op. It has to be built by people, right? I have to find someone who's like, oh, I'm super talented and I have all these degrees and I know exactly what this is. And I'm like, oh, well, with Trey Parker, between Trey and my thing, we're going to green line, like, like, we're going to hire this person, or, this is like a teamwork thing. And this person is it's, I think you guys understand. It's just a basic thing where, and I think a hybrid solution is the best thing. Beyond if we don't have a block of offices, and that's why the Imaginarium is important. But I literally want to finish telling the story about Little Blue here. All right, so there's the boys are talking about magic. It's getting a little chubby, and I mean, it's magical, advanced, life altering magics. That is to say, when you commune correctly with yourself, it's not about fantasizing. It's about aligning for yourself the correct epiphanies. Like the most intense thing, the most erotic thing, you line it up for yourself in your own timeline because you challenge yourself, because you respect yourself, or you have an internal level of depression because you know that you're better than this, or something like that. Like the parable of the person and the internal universe, that's what arranges weird challenges. And I admit, the Where map has put the Earth language engaged with Trey Parker. It's talking about society, and I'm like, you guys, this is a echo of extinction. And does that mean that all the people here in the world are villains? Well, no, you're actually more like actors on a stage, like being like, oh, watch out for the Electoral College, look out for injustice. It's like humans are very zen. I'm not saying you guys are guilty, and I'm saying we're before the flood. Physically, if we replenish the ozone, improve self-mastery, causes physics that change time. A silver lining in junk DNA is no laughing matter. The moral issue of the actual application of the human image. Through achievement, water cannot lie. The surface tension of your own body. You apply your identity, we're going to produce hatch. Boom, here we go. This is what we needed to hear. But don't throw me away entirely. So restore and replenish all fields. Here we go. We have to make sure that we have water next year. We can actually defeat drought by reintroducing ozone. So here's the cartoon. All right, so the boys are in their gaming room, and I imagine this part will actually be like a half an hour, where they're really kind of just hanging out, and you can see like a lifestyle happening with these characters, right? And it's totally next world because they're using holograms and casting magic, and they're talking about interacting with their computer AI and stuff, and that's stuff that all of us as gamers already do. We're like, yeah, the magic of these characters, yeah. And how my OC is secretly who I actually am. On board with that. So I'm saying people are communicating, but it's painfully exoskeleton. Like it's out of like I feel like I can't grasp onto the. When we introduce Hatch, there's empowerment in his wings. The people that I inspire. It's a revolution. All right. So Little Blue is laying on his back and he's feeling chubby, and basically it's a guided meditation that the Alicorn Stallion and the Vampire King don't realize that Little Blue is just about to leave the room in a magical vortex. They're looking at each other like, of course, we have to tie this off. It's just like bringing together the vampire magic and colliding it with the Alicorn magic made sense to Little Blue in the moment, and we see a moment of his eyes like, oh, and just the light goes whoop, and it's kind of interesting because if you didn't understand about the messenger particle safety net, like capture an image from yourself in the achieved zone of the future, like, oh, it worked out okay, then basically boom, like throw yourself in through that blender and well, okay, but whatever basically happens as part of your encounter. And oh yeah, and but there's a huge difference between dreams, the afterlife, fantasy, and the impact of all these things. So you can find meaningful transformation. All right, and this is one of them. So what happens? He's on the couch and he's like, "Oh!" And so his body creates a vortex. He's got like electromagnetic fields. They become visualized. The blue energy, the blue flame around his dick starts to light up, and there's like this sort of vortex map thing that happens in front of him, and his unicorn's horn goes wing and crosses this split moment of a perfect design, you guys. Let's hang out for 1 minute. Oh wait, that's a voting.
That's just my advice.
Here it is. So this is the side 80. Um, I mean, this is just. Okay. As a little interlude, a little bird flew in through the window and delighted us. So there's this magical vortex. We just sort of experienced it on the timeline, and little blue sort of evaporates, and you can he kind of swirls into it like, whoop, and that's sort of the story. And then the next time we see little blue, uh, bing, 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 his eyes are blinking, and he's in sort of a cloud kingdom, and he's walking around, and that's how eventually. I think the ozone hole should actually somehow discover him. Sort of like, I think, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's a gender thing about, does little blue find the maiden of the ozone hole? Like, is she, chilling by the water or something? Is she sleeping and he finds her there? See, I'd like to reverse those roles. I think it'd be more like little blue is sort of exhausted by the travel to this new world, and he, falls asleep, boom, and in the cloud of, and he just sort of sleeps. Maybe we see some more stories from the Alcorn Stallion where he's like, "Whoa, where did Little Blue go?" And then they look at the like, because they're in like a technology home, they like play it back and they're like, "Oh my gosh, look at!" They're like, where there's this part where they're just like, "Oh, phenomenon there's an angel in the video, like our brother." So and they "Hey Dad, look at this! You have to see this." He comes in, "Wow, oh my gosh, hey, wait, let's start casting some protection magic for him to get through his challenge here." Oh, wow. Well, yeah, yeah, okay. So, and they're sort of, and that would be really interesting. Anyway, yeah, just like this romantic thing where the Antarctica-sized hole in the ozone layer as a maiden, like cautiously pads her way towards her lover, and they're sort of perfectly paired. They have a visual connect. They look as the same little blue creature, right? Just because of the magic that was cast there. True love spell, perfect bullseye, bringing it through. And I do empower the intentional wit of Trey Parker. I'm not saying that the intelligent humor is without the structuring of morals, you know, but I do enjoy communicating the vortex of a perfect bullseye, this principle, perfect design, Lotus. Imagine that. Wow, you just added 10 years to your life. And that's actually factually true. And that's what makes it hard hitting. It's a great type of communication. So we return, little blue is reclined, and we get to see some adult stuff where the ozone, the Antarctic sized hole is like holding onto his dick and playing with him a little bit. And that's when I need some very flirty giggly moments where I'm able to achieve uh meaningful, just a moment. And it's not about like here's like there's no like uh yeah, no, it's just a show. It progresses, like they go through, they have their relationship, and then the magic spell sort of whoop, 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 goes back and becomes like another, like little blue returns back home, but he has this magical talisman that's like a locket that has this little world inside of it, and he can return to that place whenever he wants. So that allows for additional episodes of Little Blue, but it also allows for other episodes that pertain to the other characters. So the Vampire King can have his own thing, and I'm gonna do the Breathe the Mask XR, and we're gonna build some really great infrastructure online, and that's really what I need overhead for. Uh, I think honestly, on its own, so on a human level, like how do we actually I I, I suppose you might say, like, I think that this is like a professional love nest, and it's right next door to like the only adult store in Greenfield. So if you believe in aereo energetic superpositioning at all, that gorgeous little laundromat whoop, is an indication, you know, let's put it like this little apartment block right behind it. And it's not an apartment block like oh, cinder block or this and that. No, imagine just a shell pop up with like its metal siding and metal roof, except for we have to make it uh, beautiful. It does need to look good for the neighborhood. And I'm saying it will, but just imagine a sort of voop 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 sort of thing, and then spray in expanding foam insulation. Like, oh, these guys can raise a barn. They can raise a barn fast. So I'm just getting the because it is a CC zoned area, so it can be a business front. It can change into different things. On its own, like uh, it just isn't very much of an estate or anything. It really is sort of lacking so much and I'm the sort of perfect completion to it. So I see true love in that level. I'm not us on a walking height, like human level. Like I'm saying, like this is the adult store over here. I'm just saying it's like, oh, I just need a couple flirty moments, and it's. Mhm. How do I explain? It's not what we've ever seen before. All right. Thank you guys so much for understanding that. You know, I really want you Trey, to say like, the thing is, we need to adult and overclock and supply ozone. You know, you can't guilt trip people into ozone. So this is a flirty way to be like, whoop, everyone wants to see this. That it's going to give everyone a smile. It's a good memory, and it allows a smile for people who don't want to join the group or contribute to the ozone startup. At least they smiled. Okay. And that's my leverage to allow for people who are like, whoa, I want to make this part of what I'm doing. I want to invest in this. I want to be a part of this group. This is amazing and interesting. That's what is a societal revolution. So a little bit of adult material allows it just a spoonful of medicine or sugar to help the medicine go down. You guys, thank you so much for understanding. Like it's like first of all, I have prepared to for the encounter of people being sexual in response, and that's there's a lot of physics that cover that. Some people might even say theoretically the color blue is designated for sexual zoning. The color blue itself is a erotic uh, element. That's to say, the rainbow is very encouraging. Time itself is automatically encourages love. Yeah, for everything. You know, all the elements, all the starlight and all that. So those moments is what I'll be looking for, a quiet moment, and I do want to expand this building because, but it's just what I need to roll through with some meaningful times, like and meaningful nights uh, of self-discovery for um, those involved. You know, it's a professional looking. It's not that. No, this building doesn't really look like anything. It looks like what it looks like. It is what it is. Yeah. I'm not saying that like I need. This is the correct house. It's oblique. It's weird. There's something a little bit odd about this house. And I look at a lot of Zillow stuff and also on LoopNet, and I have a great understanding about crap. It's you know, because things that go on to Zillow is like a piece of crap. Or this little house is not. This house is irregular in the extreme. Uh, I love the complicated roof. Okay, what I'm saying about the theory of the house and why this is the one I'm asking Trey Parker to purchase and develop with me into my recording studio. And a larger recording studio in the front will arise and incorporate the building a little bit better. And then I want to begin on a storefront for a uh, motion capture. You know, you go into this restaurant and then you're an animated character on this streaming online show. So you can go and have some, and there's like an area where you can sit down when there's like books, and it's just like an internet cafe. There's a coffee. There's like a little coffee shop. It feels this way, and I think that will be sort of these areas here, and then there's a recording studio here. Then all of this space actually is about the apartment channels, and it really is a raise the barn. It just like a frame, or like whoop, literally they're putting it together, and it's larger than the antique thing. I want to use that as like we'll build into it to stabilize it from the backside, and it might become part structure of the interweavings back there. Whatever's cute, whatever's clever, we just integrate with that building. We just kind of swallow it up creatively, and preserve it really, because we're sheltering it, and it'll become very interesting. I think it's actually going to become legendary. Like, well, there's a moment when we were looking at pictures of it, and I was like, and see how there'll be like a screen next to it. This is like a downtown area, and I felt like everyone was like, oh, you know, that's like a legendary icon from the side of your peripheral vision. It's a unique little structure from a slice of history, right? And I'm not talking about removing the sag. I like just allow it to sag. Just let it be as what it is. And that's just really going to make it work. But like I say, we raise the barn, we build like we get the permission for the maximum amount there. We make it lovely. I'm very confident because across from the street is a blank wall, like just a white wall. This structure is not going to be bothering any neighbors here. Over here's like an empty lot. Oh, yeah, this is like an empty lot. But really creative houses over here, actually. Really interesting little neighborhood. Yeah. So no one's going to be offended there. And over here is like a work garage shop with some junk cars there. Um, well, I'd like to maintain this part of the house. I love the roof, as it's like a complicated triangular assembly, and that's like that will be maintained, and you'll be able to see that the sort of and it comes together and then sloops down, and there's a nice little storefront here, and we'll sort of anyway, my point is that we build the lofts into it with the parameters so that it's an actual apartment. It has its own bathroom. It has these amounts of space in it that make it the definition of the allotted size for an apartment. And we just divvy up the size that we're able to build on the inside. I know that it's actually really advanced concept, and uh, also turning it into a streaming in the social areas, in the like the green areas, right? The downtown area is motion capture all the time. But it's not in their rooms, right? It's not in their bathrooms. So those are not recording areas. Right? And that's how it works. But any areas that are living rooms or shared space, that's all on the set. And I think this is an amazing opportunity for the people who wind up living there. What a discovery process! And they'll become literally like celebrities with their own magnificent creature. It's just absolutely a haunted remedy, and people talking and laughing, hanging out. So I'm really looking forward to that. But those are riding on the tailcoats of Little Blue's pilot. So thank you guys so much for being my friend here. Uh, there's nothing. Beautiful. Yeah, it's just been a sequence of blessings with the people involved. Like when I met with the mother of the woman who's selling the house, I understand their story, and I think it's perfect for my cyberpunk nightclub. Like my feeling about it is like, oh, I really this house really needs a little bit more structure for it to satisfy any of the things that I'm thinking about for it. But it does satisfy for that pilot episode where I'm like, oh, this whole, everything in the house is for this recording studio. We have a couple living rooms where it's really lit up and warm and magical, and we're hanging out. I've got like a couple girls with me, because we're socializing and talking about this movie that I'm making and stuff. Like That's amazing, right? And it's just like a beautiful thing. And I'm saying like we are before the flood. I know that like we have, as an individual, we have to take seriously the anxiety of 2021. That's how we get through it. That's how we digest it. I'm to the point. I'm saying it's perfect bullseye. This is how we achieve it. Is through producing Hatch. We actually greenlight and produce Hatch, and that's how we overwhelm what is the source of anxiety, the greenhouse effect, the drought, the heat wave. Let's install a thermostat into our house because we're intelligent society now. We're global identity, big thoughts now. Seriously, this is the speech impediment of mankind. And you guys are piercing it effortlessly because we're really enlightened. Um and I want the storefront to be magical, but that's like each phase of that will be pure genius. It's like, oh, that is the perfect solution. But yes, this will be the first streaming. Yeah, and I'm streaming. This is the origin for my streaming service startup company. So I'm asking you, Trey, for a contract to work with me in real business. That you're helping me open up my company, my as a professional, all this stuff, you guys. Um, I'm asking for that. I'm asking for you to exist, Trey. And I think in your like I represent new magical ways of existing, communicating using English. I walk in a way that allows the boy to exist. And I'm just trying to say, I guess I am all right, I'll try to trust Trey Parker more and believe in the wear map. But this is sort of the end of the thing, and I'm like I make this you guys like about the Leverett thing, I was talking about Echo Lake because there's like a question about like whether or not I even came from the Leverett Circle. No, that certainly was where I. Anyway, it's sort of the strengthening of souls between us, but the reality is like we're crunch time. If we're not going to overclock it with an office building, the only way to defeat the wildfires for next year, the only way to bring back moisture so that we don't have droughts, or the Earth needs to be able to control his cycle systems, and to do that, we oh my god, you guys, it's like a hole in his head. Literally, I'm looking at like a skull with a hole in his head, and you're like, oh, you guys, we need to patch this so that his bodies can like, oh my god, And Earth is like, I'm really sorry about the environmental crisis, all the floodings and stuff. It's just like higgly piggly, things are just all crazy, and that's how it feels, you guys. This is the Echo Lake, the shockwave where we're fighting against extinction for our children. In this 2021, the youth are fighting for the environmental crisis. They're speaking the correct language. And here we're doing the adult form. This is a state of the art, cutting edge American startup production to manufacture ozone. And it's completely real. The reality is huge here. As we can see, like a lot of these houses are on their entire, this little thing. And then you look at this one and it's like, whoa, it's got like a garden and all this yard. Wow. And I'm just saying, to me, that's sort of the romance of this little Adam and Eve. When I talk about like biblical signs, I don't feel it's threatening. I feel it's like Merry Christmas. It's like, yeah, I think the Bible is sort of like, whoa, you'll see signs in the sky. Oh, what, like the rainbow changes in the sky to indicate a universal transformation? Humanity is literally the lucid historical creature. We have to define this creature as a hero by performing as a hero. The wear map has chosen Trey Parker. This circle of wizards comprehend. We move forward. I apologize for my offense. I want to be your guys' friend. I have solutions for everyone, but when I am censored, I cannot engage with the physics that allows me to present solutions. I am. Do you understand? Yes. Well, I I also had an epiphany that well, I am so I thank you guys for understanding the project. This is the building that I want to move forward with. Millie's blessing is upon it. Shrum. All right, the Leverett circle and that importance. I want to do that a little bit later, like when I do the Breathe the Mask XR. It's just a little bit down the road, but what I'm thinking of doing is like multiple buildings, like a downtown area or a factory where they're brainstorming and developing the Breathe the Mask XR. Basically, XR gaming, smart homes, hologram technology. I'm also be pioneering with CO2 capture technology. I just had this epiphany this morning that, like, when I was communicating to everyone, being like, well, the first part of my life was more like an object, and the second part of my life, is more like this outspoken set of a haunted house, you know. So I'm just so excited to awaken to everyone and become a celebrity, and I'm really sorry I've been so emotional and bratty and sort of tantrums. I'm so sorry, you guys. I really, I have a high commitments to being real. I think that's the only way we actually solve the problems is by being super real. Yeah, I love my boys. I love my family. I love my wife, Millie. It's like through a sequence of variables that ensure their security and their safety and their ability to commune with me. That's basically how it's built. It's like a family tree of characters. All right. Thank you guys so much. So I feel that all humanity is in a phase of their transitioning from being just an object. So Trey Parker's like, I was just a natural bare object, and you're talking to me about enlightened things, the arm of Cape Cod, and this conjecture, the icon is explaining a stable other world. Yeah, that's the ascension of mankind. And you guys are part of the storyteller's bed of resource physics, the societal communication physics, the visuals. So you guys are the wealthy in the karma energy, and Hatch is wealthy in the real estate of permanent gains. And there's physics and reality of why we all exist on this planet, and I'm working to engage with that societal interface through communication. So these things become real. All right. Like that's why this house is the one, is basically because there's a little Adam and Eve adult store next door. And this house is just a little blue and it's just curious. There's just a few little things about it that are just a little different. It's not really, and but to me that makes it the magical location for some transcendent whispers. There's just like um and I want to say like me working with Trey Parker sort of puts a friendly face on the biblical equivalent of what's actually happening historically in 2021. I mean, the placement of Adam and Eve doesn't make me feel like this a strange. Oh, the power is of the Bible is his. I feel like no, it's more like Merry Christmas. This is my family. I'm totally on board with the church in a really good way. But I think they find me quite conservative, for my exo mapping does not align with the Electoral College. No, I am against it. I'm for the 1v1 vote counting mechanism. All right, you guys. Um, yeah, it's just it's a cute beginning place. Honestly, when I look at it, I'm like that. I remember this banister. I remember like grasping this thing as like I've and I saw a bunch of things where I was sort of there was echoes from my future self being like really like oh they're really excited, and that just sort of I could feel it when I was the paperwork for the house was laid out on this table, and this type of blue band, that's exactly what I would do with that space. I would give it a color band like that. But I'm curious if this is metal. I think it is, like tin or aluminum. Um, so thank you guys. Thank you so much. So it's just really, yeah, we understand. And but I like every part of what we've been doing is important. Absolutely. So perfect design. Let's put it together moving forward. Use your unicorn's horn. Vroom. Perfect design. Boom. Oh, I also had some things about so in the story in the haunted house, like the Demon King, he's working on his hand gauntlet, and he's trying to like maximize demon power, and it starts to like freak out on him, like his hands going like, and he's and like there's this intense thing where he's got his compiler in his room, and he's going like he's like doing like microprocessing and trying to conduct demonic power through his arm gauntlet. And it gets to a point where he's just like exhausted and he can't handle it, and he calls for his mom. And he's like, "Mom, can you help me?" And so Millie in her ghost way, she's this huge like phantom of multiple bodies. She's like a maverick of existence herself. And so like an angel, she's like, oh, she gets into it, and she's looking at his hand, and so she brings in some of her own compilers, and she's sort of like unweaving certain dimensions that are knotted and causing what she perceives maybe as a conflict zone. And we get to see like these little images of where what the conflict is. Too much of this expression here, and these things are bound up. And I was thinking of this sort of Millie puts her hand over it and pulls there's sort of these areas of magical like orbs, but I was thinking they're sort of semi half dome. Like there's a covet here and a covet there. Anyway, she pulls it apart, and then there's sort of a discus thing where she vroom, and as she's speaking the magical thing, and this thing it sort of pops in between these two parts of the gauntlet that were in conflict, and it solves it, and and then his hands working. He's like, "Thanks, mom." And I just wanted to see the sort of mechanics between the characters where there's confidence between mother and son, and they are these cyberpunk operatives, and they have this sort of compilers, and they're talking about theory and stuff. So that's really like a moment that would be a whole half hour of maybe more. But the later on, the Breather Mask XR has power gloves, and it is the terraform of the demon gauntlet. So the discus is sort of something that will later it's actually a toggle that you can use with your thumb, and the other buttons are for you can actually change the channel of your XR interface. So while you're walking around, there's a subtle recognition with things that you're seeing, and it has the ability to overlap. That's XR. So there's different channels, and you can push on your demon gauntlet, and it changes the channels entirely of the visuals, like and different like methods, different entire worlds of the XR interface with scene objects. There's compilers where you can make a music video, you can make a song. Um, there's different interactive things that you can win a prize or you're part of a TV show. So the Demon Gauntlet goes on to being the power glove that controls part of the XR interface. Perfect design, armor up. The reason it's go time, gentlemen, is because of the environmental crisis. As a technician, I work with you civilly. As gentlemen, I'm asking for this production. I'm asking for you guys to be the financial backing and the overhead for this production. I'm like a top hat, you guys. I'm this idol, and I need you guys to understand how important this is. I'm definitely the team player that we need, and I mean, my emotions and my reality is so intense that I'm like, when I'm talking with you guys, I'll be like, oh, and then when I'm in the office building, I'll get angry at my employees. Why is he doing that? You know, it's just like I'm totally in a very real place where everyone is like, yeah, Hatch should totally be angry at people in the office. He's saying, I'm empowering you and pinching it off and turning my back with you empowered. You have to get these guys to allow us to pump ozone. And I have to communicate because to people, because if I'm talking about vampire AI and why our technology is the intuition of the year and the chi that we listen to, and then when they see it, when other people in the world, you know, oil executives or whatever, they're like, what is this guy saying? And they watch the animation and they're like, so you think that our cars are 2021 cars? They're like a technology. It's the blood of our people. You know, the chase of the road. You know, and like at the end of this thing, and then well, it boils down that my office people are like on the phone and say, "Sir, we really need permission to produce. It's clean ozone." They're like, "We have questions. Is this artificial ozone? Is it good?" You know, this kind of stalemate, and it's like, no, no, no. So I need to be the person, the top hat, who charms the big wigs who are like, "What it? You know, oh yeah, yeah, I get that. Like, yeah, right. I like driving." And I'm aligned with our technology. That's hot. And then, you know, you're all of a sudden we're getting along, and that boils down to like, oh yeah, let those guys produce clean ozone, but we'll ask them like, we need to have someone monitoring the purity of the ozone. It has to be 1v1 good. Like that's what we want. Okay, you know, we were gonna. That's really a good thing. Thank you so much. So that's why Hatch is more of a top hat, not the sort of uh bureaucrat of typical means by no means king of the road. You guys, I'm definitely a character, and so I just really enjoyed being your friend, you guys, and I love performing for you. I love that all that, and I'm not upset, and I'm really happy. But there's big emotions here from the kids. Oh, who's this? The one who's feeling and all this. And I come out here and I say, you guys, oh, yeah, Hatch should be yelling at his employees. Uh huh. Oh, yeah, because there's fucking billions of kids who are like so angry. They're like, absolutely, you got. We've been saying this is the problem, but the adult world, it's like a zombie. I'm like, why are you guys destroying our world? Stop it! And I'm like the super adult wizard, and I go to Trey Parker and I say, it's the junk DNA exoskeletal things with the electoral college and people's speech impediment. That's why they're burning like this. And we need to be like, you guys, you don't need to be so zen right now. Like, because that's their fall down Clancy. Ultimately, a maneuver to escape invasion. Ultimately, a maneuver of putting your tail between your legs and parenting the children. What's good for the children? Let's move forward. Well, that's why we're on a global scale, the UN unconscionable towards the environment. There's a huge speech impediment there, but it's a type of double Clancy where it's also explaining a type of protest in tongues, a chi language of the asphyxiation, an actual feeling of being like your identity's being choked out, like the sun, our planet was being attacked in a way of our like larger like. You're saying we can't commune with the universe, but I'm sure there's a segment in my spine that correlates directly to that dimension. So it's this weird spiritual ghostal thing, and they're involved with when we'll be invading the Earth. No, you won't be invading the Earth. The humans continue to live there. And that's why the older people, oh, the old battlement, they're grip locked into bearable, see through the course of natural burning oil and what it does. Oh, it's getting hot, but okay. But I'm piercing that veil. I'm like, oh, I'm a breakaway. I'm a rebel. I'm talking about leading a revolution to solve this thing. And I'm also telling you guys, it takes a hero to do this. I'm like three different parts of that mechanism combined. So thank you guys so much for understanding. Here's the house tour. Uh, I want to begin construction immediately. I know that I'm a different type of energy. I'm a different type of top hat. I'm a different type of CEO. The way that the economy responds to me is unique to myself, which means that take great confidence in my return, for the green line will be there, my friends. So I know it's unusual for you guys to just suddenly jump on board and be like, oh, so you want us to buy you a house and set you up with those cameras? Yes, immediately, because of the ozone. That's why I take urgent words with you, sir, for it is the relevant issue of our generation. We are there. We have arrived. And because of the Wear Map, because like the Wear Map engaged us, and it's been like, ugh. But the reality is that you're hearing a message in the bottle, Echo Lake, from the future. The kids are saying, you guys need to speak directly about no invasion, no to, as this type of thing about defining the human image. And Hatch is a type of authority figure. That is to say, when Trey Parker becomes civil professional with Hatch, that is the handshake, the silver lining of Junktine, and the strength of mankind to be resilient against extinction. I am a type of authority figure. The Junktine is designed to prevent your naturally thrill connection with Hatch Pan. Through my life, I've learned the language, but I don't claim that my technique is perfect. Through the reality, that's the coarseness of that allows you to know Hatch has an identity, that he's put in a lot of work on his body, his soul, and his mind. That is fact. Uh, I have tremendous wealth in the flat dimension. I'm basically how that thing operates. This is my summon circle, but Greenfield is just like, it's a darling of, all right, I'm just going to perform the magic on Trey Parker's body, mind, and soul, because I am a herald against the bad form of Junktine. I'm for the true soul and the true boy. So I perform my parental product, spring trap on Trey Parker, and he's like, all right, shoot, because like he's saying like, go ahead, because I want to know what you're talking about as parenting these children. What are you saying is the right parental soul mapping? So let's go ahead with that, and that satisfies me because like I don't want the so zen humans to collapse on Trey and be like, you have to go down with it, make the evidence. Make the evidence. No, no, but Hatch was being all sketch, like he'd be like, oh, Trey's my soul slave now, and this makes that, because I'm going to burn in true hell, like for 1,000,000 years. All these parasites that operate through Junktine, you are damned to a mirror world of pure burning. And that's really what's going to remove the edge from the human condition and prevent them from going insane. Because the boy has the light, and the identity has the priority in the body. And that's really the hamstring of Junktine, is like, who's informing this identity here? Obviously, the person who's put in all the work on their body and soul. It's like self-evident, yeah, like the straight rainbow, and the remote hackers are denying it, and our governments, it's over their head. And so Trey Parker, like, and Hatch are like, whoa, transcendent mode, whoosh, perfect bullseye, nice, got that magic, yeah, knock it in, all right. Here we go, guys. Thank you so much. So Trey, don't even worry about the falsetto of recent events or whatever. I just saw a series in the news where like it's the misplacement. Okay, ting 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 ting. There's a diffraction in the human anatomy. That is to say, literally, there's a perplex of the human condition. They like it. And I'm saying, like, you guys, we need to transcend those observations to just be like, technically, we need to produce ozone. Hatch, as a professional, is saying the only way I can reach that market and prove that revolution is with adult animations. Well, Trey's like, well, that all brings up a lot of images to our mind. Thank you for giving us the pilot presentation today. All right, so I presented to you guys the actual walkthrough of the pilot episode. And that these were things. These are pieces of the epiphany that arrived to me yesterday when I had like boom, 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 boom. Like my mind was, and I was just like absolutely enlightened by these ideas. Of course, so the Alicorn Stallion is talking about unicorn casting, and Little Blue somehow opens up a vortex wormhole, poof, and it just leaves the room, poof, in like a puff of smoke. And the boys are like, "What? Play back that computer! Play it back, Dad! Little Blue's gone. He's gone." So they, you know, it's just a wonderful story, you guys. I'm so excited to present it to you. And thank you so much, Trey Parker. And I think the Wear Map was right to choose you. And I think you're going to save the world, Trey. You're a real hero for enduring all my uh, educations. All right? Yes. And my lashings. And and the other things unmentionable. All right. We are the true starlight sending. I'm going to rebuild the universal construct to overwhelm the humbug. The false starlight network is an immature and misplaced version of the encouragement of starlight that leads to Earth and the appropriate landing procedure there. So, because the starlight is physically designed for that, when that's been interrupted and they have a divergent virus, there's a resource for that, even in starlight. But to activate that, the humans from within must reawaken their relationship with the universe starlight sending. Now that we have the image of the universe, it's possible. And through the education of Hatch and Millie, cyberpunk revolution, that is our destiny. The greatest possible completion and fulfillment of existence and universe for each one of us, but for the mass total as well, for Earth True. Hatch the heliosphere eggs. Rah! It is good. Hooray! Hooray! Yay! Hey! That was great. Thanks, you guys. Thank you so much. So that's the pilot about Little Blue. It's not overly erotic, but it's gonna be something you're gonna want to see. It's like, oh, hey, that's so adorable. We're gonna have a good time, and we're gonna save the world while doing it, you guys. Thank you so much for understanding. Like I say, the pilot episode will be completed in that little darling. It's just a cute little house. Uh, Honestly, when I'm looking at it, I'm seeing the additions. I'm like, this, I need a whole. All right. So I am asking you, Trey, to go professional and produce my it's this huge thing that you know how to do. I I acknowledge your professionality in that, and thank you very much for understanding my top hat. I have to maintain my magic, right? Like I was saying, I went deep with Earth. Oh my God, I've been seeing things like a screaming banshee of a grrrt. Oh, I'm seeing it coming down. Seriously, in my interpretation deck, my familiarity with sunlight and the Earth True, I see this sequence of signs. I'm like, oh, there, Kendi. It's a dark angel reaping my reward, taking away from my beauty and the recognition with this building. Like, oh, what other buildings are you looking at? No, like, I mean, all of these other buildings have just like sheetrock. It's like, it's just a sheetrock. Maybe it has wood floors. Maybe. So it's like, no, like this little thing is right next to the only pornographic adult store in Greenfield. And it has this weirdness to it. I know this is the one. And that's it. Because what we're talking about is producing ozone. The only way to get to ozone without a huge. All right, you guys, thank you so much. I'm saying the curvature of a revolution and the energy of Hatch Pan is all about producing the ozone that prevents wildfires for next year. Like that's the curvature. We need that type of energy, that gumption where we're reclaiming our world and resolving. Yeah, thank you guys so much. Hatch has that type of energy. He's that type of performer. Thank you, Trey. I really appreciate your friendship and all that. And I'm like, don't allow the shadows in the mind to defeat your will to support Hatch. You know what I'm saying? Because okay, so some of the dark signs I saw was like, okay, so if you're not going to get the adult cartoons here next to the Adam and Eve thing, this is like True talking to me currently, or currently, you could say. I say, okay, if you're not gonna be doing that, the next thing I have lined up for you is a mechanic's shop, a grease. Are you a gearhead? You're gonna repair old cars? Oh yeah, I got this thing I got something maybe. It'll only cost 2 million to get it rolling. What the hell? Okay, I understand Earth. It's this one. It's this little love shack, this little antique thing. Absolutely, because I am not a mechanics shop guy. That's my, like maybe later I will have an adorable car show, but I'm like, wait, if you're, because Earth is like, okay, it's either ozone or you're basically you don't have anything. And it's not me just I need you guys to take this seriously as my best friend and be like, Hatch, you're on to something because I agree. Like, we need to, let's pump ozone into the whole. It's like putting a skull cap on the earth. I feel right about it. It's a big idea, and that's sort of like why. And we want to believe that our government would do this thing if it knew to do so, but it takes imagination and it takes a caring it proves the tenacity of Trey Parker's pillar of society when he endures Hatch and he's like, I understand about misplaced energy. I want to do the right energy with you. Let's line it up, do the right thing. It might not be Trey Parker's style to like buy a house and pay for overhauling, putting that's sort of an unusual production. The only reason we're doing that is because it results in ozone manufacture. And this is so important that we're having this meeting right now. Perfect design, wizard achievement, you guys. I feel it. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Perfect design. Vroom. Armor up from within. Vroom. Good. The reason. Oh, in this episode, we actually went through the pilot episode. It actually occurred to me yesterday while I was meditating. I think Trey was thinking well of me and thinking like, "Can you tell me more about the pilot, Bobo?" And then he's over there and doing whatever else he needs to do, and it's great. But I look at the headlines, I almost see something like Trey's feeling like a little bit distracted and guilty, like, "Oh, I'm not paying, it's fine." Like that's what the headlines say to me. Don't worry about it, Trey. I just need you to write the check. And Trey would say, "You guys, this is extra because it produces ozone." And today, in this episode, for the first time ever, we're hearing the pilot description where we understand it's not a weird pornography. It's actually interesting. And we understand how that's going to roll through and teach people to to just to smile and allows those who are interested they can go online and I need the overhead to produce that online chapel for little blue and his cherry, right? Because this this story about a boy and how him making love is actually going to solve the the heat crisis and the environmental crisis. So it's really a hero for the people. Everyone gets to giggle a little bit and cheer along a solution of ozone. I think it's absolutely adorable. It's alive, and it's good. You guys, thank you so much for understanding and producing my show. Thank you, Trey. It's good.